Good afternoon, and thanks again for joining us today on our next topic in our series on the 7 deadly sins. Today's topic I'd like to discuss is greed. Greed, it's a great topic, especially for a sermon in today's world. And, as I've said, it's one of the 7 deadly sins. It can be deadly either physically, eternally, or even both, unless reconciled. Other names greed go by are avarice, cupidity, and covetousness. No matter what label you stick on it, it boils down to the same thing: wanting more of one or more things than we really need. We'll discuss these things more in detail as the sermon continues. A simplified explanation is the continued driving desire to possess material things, especially money and power, in its continued growth of abundance. This, most definitely, being a sin against God. The reason being is that God's child rejects, forsakes all beautiful things that are eternal just to possess material things that we'll only have temporarily and most likely will rot away. Greed inspires actions that are not godly. In fact, these actions are inspired by Lucifer: theft, robbery, trickery, deceit, manipulation, or outright lying. Greed could be for money or power, which is basically the top two of the priority of greed, and the top 2 reasons that people usually are greedy. Other means of actions that are inspired by greed are a person who is disloyal or will deliberately betray you. We're going to discuss Proverbs 1:19 from the New International Version. Such are the paths of all who go after ill-gotten gain. It takes away the life of those who get it. King Solomon tells us that the paths of the greedy are doomed. There will be nothing but disaster when they reach the end of their road. Their own arrogance will be their own downfall. The paths they walk are filled with nothing but treachery and deceit. Bottom line, again, evil. Solomon goes on to say that once the person gets their ill-gotten gains, their life is pretty much over in the spiritual sense. Instead of leaning on Jesus, they plot ways of getting their own possessions. This takes away from living a truly prosperous life, one of joy, living in the presence of God, and allowing God to provide for our needs. Like the old saying goes, what would it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? I'll ask you, what kind of life is that? Jesus gives us a self-explanatory warning in Luke 12:15, New International Version. Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." What Jesus is saying is there is more to life than material things. Life is not in a possession, but in Him, Jesus, our Savior. He is the life. He is joy, peace, love. Relationships, not only with Him, but with the Father as well as with each other. Learning new things and growing spiritually. Material things cannot give us this. With our Savior, we learn the meaning of life. Are you living a meaningful life? Or a life that appears to be meaningful? Ask yourself that question, and please be honest. When I was in my dark period of time, I was filled with nothing but greed. It was like a dark, bottomless pit, always wanting, needing, having what others had and more, a true feeling of emptiness. I just didn't seem to be satisfied despite what I did. I lost all sight of God, stopped following Jesus, and never once appreciated what I did have. Once I asked Jesus to take me back in His heart, things started to change for the better, and today I have a more blessed life to show for it. God be praised. Yes, I still have trials and tribulations to go through, but since knowing that Jesus is working on my behalf for my highest good, it's a feeling I'm happy to experience. As we close on our sermon for today, let us remember the power greed has, what it can do to us if we allow it. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. I'm Reverend Tony. Thanks again for joining us today at Tony Romacco Ministries. And please join us next week for our next in the series of the 7 Deadly Sins. May God bless each and every one of you. Go out there, shine his light, be his vessel, so others may see and follow the true path, the path to Jesus. Thank you again, and please continue to walk in God's presence. You'll be glad you did. Have a blessed week.